Take a look at this, folks. So people are finally catching up to the scam that is mass immigration. They're finally catching up to the whole, international students, to the fake phony visas, to the temporary foreign workers, private companies and these private equity firms that bribe our government to open up the floodgates, manufacturing this idea that, oh, Canadians just don't want to work. They're too lazy, that the younger generation, they're, untrainable, they're unemployable. So that's why we're going to bring in a bunch of foreigners, treat them worse than Canadian employees, and barely pay them, scamming the entire system. People are finally catching up to this. And it is causing a bit of grief from the people that are profiting from this. And in this particular case, the fake kind of colleges, and I don't mean fake colleges like they're completely just useless. There are some that, are just outside of a, strip mall. They're just a building that they collect money off of international students. But take a look at this. This is interesting. Another 181 full-time faculty laid off at Conestoga College. Notices delivered days before Christmas, not because of a sudden crisis, but because the international student-driven funding model finally broke. So the college that was profiting and engineering itself from the profiteering made by international student flow, this pipeline, it finally burst. People caught on to it. They realized how phony it was. Temporary international students has slowly been declining, and now this college is laying off people. And my instinct was why they wouldn't reach out to domestic students. Why are they not reaching out and making it affordable for Canadians to go to this college, get the proper training so that they can, go into the workplace? I never understood that. Just like I never understood when they offer these training programs and then immediately they slap on this kind of fake woke DEI measure to say that we're only reaching out to non-Canadians. Well, this is part of it, because a lot of these colleges profit off this scam. It says enrollment from international students is down nearly 80% in a single year. For years, Ontario colleges expanded staffing and programs on the assumption that this pipeline will never slow. That assumption is now collapsing in real time. This is what happens when public education is financed by volume-based international enrollment and policy changes flip the switch. So here's a little breakdown of this.
Another round of job cuts at Conestoga College. Around 180 positions affected. The union calling the timing right before Christmas devastating. CTV's Heather Centerin joining us live now with more details. Heather.
Tony, the union representing laid-off workers says 181 full-time faculty members are affected. More than 130 of them at the Kitchener campus, the other at the campuses in Cambridge, Waterloo, Brantford, and Guelph.
181 full-time faculty members at Conestoga College were issued layoff notices on Tuesday. The president of their union says they don't deserve it.
They're colleagues. They're professionals. They're dedicated, committed individuals.
Koff says it stings even more that his colleagues got this news just days before Christmas.
Why? First of all, why this background? Why would you just not? Why would you just keep it neutral? Keep it neutral. Why is this? Why is this? Are you gonna try and make this an anti-Semitic remark that, oh, the Qataris and the Palestinians that take control of the Ontario educational system, they're the ones to blame. I don't get this, but that's not the point here. But anyway,
shame. This is the timing, everything, and the method and approach. It's and there's no opportunity for the members to have a town hall directly with management, senior management, to explain or talk.
He believes financial pressure.
That's the head of the union, the teachers union, saying, well, there's no hope. There's no hope. Really? You mean colleges didn't exist before international students? Like, do you see how ridiculous this is? That they're saying, we got to get these flow of international, we got to straggle these people. We got to be part of these NGOs that make fraudulent visas, and we got to, because it keeps the jobs afloat. First off, if the only reason you're surviving is because you're exploiting international students, which have to pay more in tuition because they're international, chances are you shouldn't be a college, period. You don't deserve to have an educational campus. That should be a given. That should be a given. And the second thing I ask is, if you know that the international student flow is decreasing and you're saying that the funding is running short, why are they not reaching out to people within this country, the legal residents, the people that could benefit from, better training so they could train for the jobs of tomorrow? Anyway.
Teachers are to blame.
Because it's simple, it's cheap. They're replacing full-time with a lot of part-time. And it's a simple solution, but it's not the right one.
When asked about the layoffs, Conestoga College said Ontario's college sector is facing unprecedented financial challenges, with international enrollment dropping nearly 80% this year compared to 2023, saying in a statement in part, "To achieve a balanced budget, we must align our resources with the reality that we have lost thousands of international students. Simply put, we no longer require the same complement of faculty, staff, and administrators as in 2024. The college says the changes comply with the collective agreement. The union says its top priority is supporting those impacted.
Remember that you're not alone. We're all in it together.
The college calls the decisions difficult but necessary, saying they have to align their resources to ensure long-term sustainability.
Wow. It's just eye-opening to show you how fake and phony the buildup of the college system truly is at this point. Because there's not many international students, the college is struggling. That's why we got to lay so many people off. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? That maybe the college itself needs to change. That maybe this educational system that is so dependent on international flooding of international students, maybe that entire structure was a scam that got revealed. That maybe you need to look entirely in the whole educational process and revamp it. Because as I said, there was a time when people went to colleges and it wasn't as bad as this. They weren't desperate. They weren't pleading to the government, please, we need more international students. They weren't scrambling around like this. But they caught up on, they got involved in the scam. They got involved in the scam. And there's a lot of people, and this is why I've been saying from the get-go when talking about, mass migration and immigration, I don't blame the migrants. I don't blame the students that are coming here because they're under the false promises. They're under the pretext to think that they're coming to this country to get a quality education. But the people that are manipulating the colleges, the immigration officers, the officials, the government of Canada, the NGOs that play a part into this, they're all part of the scam. And they're the ones responsible for this. So they bring in people thinking that they're going to get quality education and they get screwed over the same way we're getting screwed over by our own government. It's a double-edged sword that's attacking both sides. So that's why I don't blame I don't blame the migrants. I don't blame the migrants in this situation because They're getting exploited no differently than we're being exploited. And the scam is finally being revealed, and it's caught up to Conestoga College, where now they're making the announcement they got to lay off all these people because they thought the scam was going to last forever. Wow. Yeah, it goes to show you how much of a just really is just amazing, exposing the educational system in this country and the exploitation of international students. So take a look at this. This is from the Brampton Guardian. Brampton had up to 80 private diploma mill colleges using international students as an ATM, the mayor says. Now, for anyone that knows anything about Brampton, Ontario, very, 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 very much a Indian background there. Very much a high Indian population. Very much a migrant destination. And a lot of it is coming from stuff like this, where they bring in students from India, from Pakistan, from the Middle East, from elsewhere. They bring them into these colleges. And we're going to show you how fake it all is. These private colleges that run out of an old office tower. They don't even have a proper campus. Literally just one room where they're just paying money to someone. They come here, get a fake, phony, botched visa to get not an education, and they get screwed over. But the company that's making these private colleges, they're laughing themselves to the bank. So this is all part of the diploma mill scam that people are starting to catch up on. Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown said he is optimistic recent measures from the provincial and federal governments will help curb private post-secondary institutions in the city that don't meet basic academic standards. It seems rare when all three levels of government in Canada agree these days, but on one such issue, at least in Brampton, is curbing so-called diploma mill colleges. In January, Federal Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Minister Mark Miller announced a 2-year cap on new student visas starting this fall. Miller said that the decision was, at least in part, aimed at eradicating private post-secondary educational institutions he described as the diploma equivalent of puppy mills, a fly-by-night operations and backdoor entities into Canada with dubious academic standards. So this is how they're doing this. They make a fake institution. They pose it as a post-secondary college. They run it out of a strip mall. They run it out of a rundown office tower. They buy a little bit of property to make it look like it's an actual institution. Then they go out and reach for these international students, primarily using an NGO, a non-government organization, to pry them into our country. They pay the money to these fake colleges. Then they take that money and cash it to the bank, and the people that paid them, thinking that they're going to get a good education, get scammed. They get completely scammed. And this has been going on for many years. During a news conference on Tuesday, May 7th at the Algoma University's Brampton campus, Mayor Patrick Brown told reporters that the city was home to between 70 and 80 such institutions. While the news conference was to announce a new Algoma student residence in downtown Brampton, Brown, Liberal MP Shafka Ali, and Progressive Conservative MPP Charmaine Williams were asked by reporters to provide an update on the diploma mills file. Neither clarified if or how many questionable or fraudulent private institutions have been shut down in Brampton since the visa cap and proposed new measures were announced, but all three expressed optimism those initiatives are having or will have the desired effect. I think it is a real problem. I think there was a real puppy mill of degrees, not reputable academic institutions, Brown told reporters. We want students to learn. We hear about the Wild West of institutions where there wasn't the commitment to academic integrity. I think that's what a cast of pall over the academic sector in the country. How the system has changed, I think that's going to be reconciled now. A year ago, I would have been really critical, but right now, I'm very optimistic the transformation we're going under is going to restore integrity to the sector by rewarding alchemists and taking away opportunities from those really using international students as an ATM with no return in academic integrity, Brown added. So what it sounds like to me is that they're possibly getting bribed for this. Because they acknowledge that this is a problem. They acknowledge that there's a huge influx of international students being part of this puppy mill of diplomas. They know about these institutions. They know how fake it is. But they're coming out to say how optimistic he feels. It's very optimistic that we lied to people. We lied about curbing mass migration, even though we're pouring in more people and we're giving amnesty to people. We're giving amnesty to people that we didn't need to pour in. So he thinks that Patrick Brown and the Liberal MP and the Progressive Conservative MPP are part of this scandal. That they're getting bribes from these institutions. Ali, who represents Brampton Center, pointed to the different roles local, provincial, and federal governments play in stressing the importance of collaboration between all three levels of government when it comes to post-secondary education. Institutional approval, quality, and licensing that fall under provincial jurisdiction at the federal government. We don't approve institutions, but I think since Minister Miller came in, we had heard so many stories about the students or the institutions that were qualified was undermined. I think Mr. Miller has spoken with his provincial counterpart, and the province has stepped up. Yeah, again, it's all theatrics. It's all theatrics. Just like how Mark Miller went on to CBC News Radio and was asked about, do you think there was some wrongdoing with Justin Trudeau and your behalf bringing in these people? Do you think that, there's wrong? No. I think that we had to at the time because the economy. Remember they said that we had to because otherwise we'd be in a recession. Well, guess what? We're far beyond a recession right now, and they're still bringing in more people. So using the economy as a crutch on why you need to scam international people and bring them into this country is not working. The economy is collapsing. Things are getting worse. And now the international students that are coming here, they're even picking up on this. Here's the Times of India. What's the Times of Israel? Here's the Times of India that stated this. Says 20,000 Indian students vanish in Canada. Visa scams, fake colleges, and a broken system. Canada's witnessed a sharp rise in Indian student enrollments, reaching 427,000 in 2024. However, nearly 20,000 students have gone missing, often due to fraudulent colleges or visa misuse, while some fall prey to fake institutions. Others use study permits, primarily for work, financial stability, or permanent residency, sidelining their education. So, people are waking up to this. People are waking up to this scam. Here's Rebel News interviewing Michelle Rampal Gardner, who's an MP for the Conservative Party, and she's been very vocal about this. She's also been very vocal about the temporary foreign workers. Her and Pierre Poilievre have actually called out certain corporations for being part of the scam, which is really a first for any politician, because it's normal for them to just go on a rampage against immigration. To just say, oh, it's immigration. It's all these, brown people that are coming. That's not the problem here. The problem is the exploitation is coming from the top down. And no one wants to talk about the exploitation from the top down Because the top people, the top abusers, are the people that donate to political causes. They are the ones that are ruling this country, as you'll see later on. But here, Ezra Levant asked conservative immigration critic Michelle Rampel Gardner about the surge of international students entering Canada to work and increase the fake diploma mill colleges. So here's what she says about that. She's actually been really hammering hard on this. Take a listen.
Now, I have a friend who has been a Tim Hortons franchise owner for many years. And when I bumped into him recently, he was quite mad at me for picking on Tim Hortons and the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. He said something to me that did ring a bell. He said, a lot of the people who work at Tim Hortons and other places, they're not temporary foreign workers, they're foreign international students who are allowed to work. So I think he was making a distinction without a difference. These are still foreign people who were driving down wages and supplanting Canadians. They're just in a different program. I think he thought that distinction would mollify me. I don't think it does. I don't know the exact number of international students in Canada, but it's around 1 million last I checked. So if you've got, like, I think that's more than the foreign workers. So it's actually probably a larger and bigger issue. In fact, I don't even know how many of these students who are working are legit students. A lot of them come with obvious diploma mills, so just buying a diploma. Can you talk a little bit about foreign students who...
So he's pointing out that they don't know if these international students are pouring in are actual students. And we've seen case after case, a lot of these, visas are actually fraudulent. Because they come here, they get the visa to grant them the ability to stay in the country, but they don't show up to classes. They don't have courses. They don't have any academic backing to prove that they're students. They just get the document to come in and grant them the ability to then go work at a place like Tim Hortons that also is behind scams like the temporary foreign worker, because the government incentivizes. They incentivize a lot of these. We've seen that video of the convenience store owner saying that he was incentivized to hire foreign workers compared to Canadians. That the government's actually granting these companies, and these companies are purposely doing it to exploit these people for cheaper wages. Which, ironically, if companies were resorting to cheaper labor or resorting to AI to reduce the entire labor costs whatsoever, wouldn't you think that your products would be cheaper? Because it turns out that's not the case. You're exploiting Canadians for the intention of exploiting Canadians. That's what Tim Hortons is doing. Let's hear what she says.
Do attend school, but spend a lot of their time working, or really it was a fake school that they just paid to get them in the country.
Well, you're absolutely right. You shouldn't be mollified to hear that. So just a little bit of context for your listeners. What happened was the Liberals about 4 or 5 years ago, they decided to completely juice the number of foreign student permits that Canada issued on a year-to-year basis. You even had the now Justice Minister, who has a track record of failure, Sean Fraser, as the Immigration Minister. He even came out and bragged about raising the number of foreign student permits to the highest levels ever in Canada. I don't know if you know this, Ezra, but there's actually over 3 million temporary residents in Canada right now. It's close to 8% of the Canadian population. If you compare that to 10 years ago, that was a number that was, I think it was under 1%. I'd have to check, but it was certainly far lower than that. So the point I'm trying to make is that it was a deliberate decision by the Liberal government to increase these foreign student permits. They made, there's certain colleges, particularly in Ontario, that just made absolute bank off of these kids. And let's talk about the humanity of the situation for these kids too. A lot of times these are people who come to Canada paying their entire life savings or their family life savings. They end up living under a bridge or in a house with 20 other kids. There was all these ads about, trading sexual services to get rent. And meanwhile, these college presidents, I had a couple of them in front of our committee. It didn't go well for them. We're just like, oh yeah, everything's fine. It's not a big deal. So this is the Liberals' fault. We've been advocating for, of course, far lower numbers there, but there's other problems, Ezra, that we're going to see in the next several years because of this sort of big bulge, this big influx that the Liberals allowed. So, for example, I asked the Liberals 6 months ago, and they still haven't answered. There are 3 million temporary residents in the country. They're temporary. Their visas are about to expire. How are you going to get them to leave? No answer. And what we've seen is an increase in asylum claims, bogus asylum claims being made by people who have expiring work visas. So, this is why myself, my colleagues in the Conservative Party, we undertook a series. I think it's the most substantive immigration reform package that has been announced in decades in Canada over the last several months, particularly with regard to the asylum system, lowering overall immigration levels, dealing with non-citizens convicted of serious crime, ensuring that those persons in those situations would be deported. There needs to be wholesale reform, and that's what the focus of our fall session was. And I think because, Ezra, we put that policy out, I think that's why you're seeing the uptake from the Canadian public on trusting the Conservative Party with immigration vis-a-vis the Liberals.
So, yeah, exactly on point there. That corporations are exploiting this measure. They're part of opening the floodgates. They're bribing the government, and the government's allowing them, because they get incentives, to deploy mass migration into the country and use them for cheap labor, which undermines the value and essence of the Canadian working class. Why younger people, as I said in the previous segment, younger people are statistically more likely to be replaced by temporary foreign workers or AI automation. And they wonder why the younger generation is so upset all of a sudden. No, it's not all of a sudden. It's been a continuance. It's been a continuance because they know about these scams. They know about this deployment. They know that all these policies are purposely intended to screw over the nation. They know about this. They know about this. They know about the diploma mills. They know that the college campuses that are profiting off this, they had no intention to actually educate these people. They wanted the money. They wanted the money. And now you're seeing the blowback, because now Conestoga College has to go out and say, yeah, all these people that we hired because we thought the scam was going to continue on, no one's going to notice. Yeah, people caught up. People caught up. And while I do feel bad that people are going to lose their jobs, that's the scam. That is the scam that has been played out, that people are waking up to and now realizing just the atrocity and the mess of all this. And one of the reasons for it, and it's happening all over the place, not just Canada that's dealing with this. We know that the UK, they got a letter from George Soros to basically dictate that European nations open the floodgates for mass migration, because the billionaire class definitely wants mass migration. Even Bernie Sanders pointed it out, that said, we have to do something about the borders because open borders is a Koch brothers idea. It's a Koch brothers idea. It's a billionaire idea. It's not a lefty idea. It's not a right person's idea. It's a billionaire's idea, because they want to erase the borders so that they can bring in more people and abuse them and exploit them at every point in turn. And one of those people here in Canada is this schmuck. This guy, who is part of the Century Initiative. He's part of the NGO that's initializing all this and works side by side with Mark Carney. Table Salt points out, meet Carney's pick for U.S. ambassador, Mark Weissman, the guy who lobbied Trudeau to bring in 500,000 immigrants per year into Canada. Then Trudeau brought exactly that number. And Mark Weissman used to work for BlackRock. And he is part of the Century Initiative NGO that wants the Canadian population to explode. They want this uptake. They want this uprising. They want to transform the country. It's because of people like this guy. And now Mark Carney because Mark Carney used to also be part of this NGO. He gave Mark Weissman, this guy, a position of power. He's now the ambassador to the United States. And this is what he said about mass migration and why he considers it to be a great asset to the country. Not, actually reforming it so we actually have proper documentation, but no, it's a great asset that we're storming and flooding in the streets of people that we have no idea about.
In fact, I believe that the vast majority of growth that we've had in Canada since the Second World War has come from the fact that we have brought new Canadians into our economy. Those Canadians pay taxes, those Canadians start businesses, those Canadians are entrepreneurial, and those Canadians are consumers.
So he's basically giving mass immigration a ton bath by saying how, they're so great, they're so wonderful. Oh, they contribute more to the economy. Well, gee, Canadians contribute to the economy. Canadians actually work their butts off. Canadians also consume. Canadians also do. There's no recognition for them. There's no recognition for people within this country. And again, it's the same mentality you hear from Mark Miller, the same mentality you hear from Justin Trudeau, the same mentality you hear from these private equity bourgeois classes, the fake phony liberals that pretend to care about, DEIs and diversity and representation. They don't give a damn about any of that. They give a damn about the opportunity it has to exploit these people. And so you're bringing in these newcomers that, as Michelle Rampel Garner explained, a lot of them gave up their livelihoods. A lot of them gave up their entire stability, their entire resources to come to this country. And they're being frauded by the Canadian government the same way the Canadian government is frauding against us. So it's because of people like him. It's because of schmucks like him that demand the Canadian government open the floodgates, pour in these people, that people have to get along. They just have to accept it. Because it's more bang for his buck. And he's giving a ton bath to these people while throwing the rest of the country under the bus. Hey, maybe, Canadians would be more entrepreneurial and more consuming if they actually had an economy that works for them. You ever thought of that?
Those new Canadians. I would advocate that we quickly do what Canadians do best. I mean, let's double down on the things that we do really well. And one of the things we do very well in this country is bring and integrate new people. And so I would personally advocate.
No, we haven't. Because in order to actually integrate someone and actually give them the ability to become proper citizens of the country, you actually have to go through a vetting process. You actually have to go through the same immigration hurdles that he mocks about. Oh, these checkpoints, all these legalities, all the notions and the paperwork and the bureaucracy that we have to go through. We just got to get rid of all that. That's how you integrate someone. That's how you actually vet them properly so they become a proper citizen. But no, this guy wants the complete opposite. He wants to pour the country in with as many people as possible from God knows where and just assume that things are going to go great. Just assume that things are going to go great. Without, checking that they have no criminal record, that they're not, a follower of the playground. Things like that. Making sure that they're actually stable, that they're here intentionally for good reasons.
Increasing our current immigration levels to somewhere closer to 500,000 a year from about 330,000 that was currently coming into the country pre-COVID. And I would target I would use our advantage to grow our economy by targeting immigrants, quite frankly, skilled immigrants in many cases, who would otherwise be going to the United States and who don't want to go there or can't go there today. We should be encouraging those people to come north of the border and to help us grow our economy.
Yes, it's about helping us grow the economy. It's about the economy, stupid. The exact same stupid reasoning that Mark Miller told us, and that was a complete lie. That was a complete lie. They told us that we had to bring it because it's we were about to go into a recession. You know, right as we were shutting everything down for COVID. They're doing all this is intentional. All this is intentional. They don't care about the economy. The economy's worse. The economy's worse before all this. It was better before all this. Now it's worse. So how can you even make that excuse anymore? How can you make that excuse that, we're bringing in people to be smart enough to help us establish the economy better? And the economy is in worse shape. And as I've always stated, they always talk about, we need, skilled people. And I think it was Laura Ingraham even said to Trump that, what can we not find skilled people in America? Can you not find skilled people in Canada? Can we not train people for better jobs? That used to be the case, but not anymore. They're telling you, screw you. Screw you. We're looking elsewhere. We want cheaper labor. We want these skilled workers. And I use that in quotations because the skill that they have is being exploited. That's the skill that they want. They want people that's easily exploitable. And that at some point it's going to be replaced by an AI and you're all going to get screwed. That is incredible. And that's the man behind all this. That's the man behind all this. The Century Initiative NGO that wants to, go to, 100 million population by the end of the century. That's his big goal. And the same guy that says, the immigration paperwork is such a joke. We just got to flood people in, not have a vetting process. This is why. And he gets his grimy hands in the government. Mark Carney was a good buddy of his. He works at BlackRock. Mark Carney was at Brookfield. They're both WEF contributors. So you get where all this is coming from. And now, because the scam is out, because the word is out, now they're doing articles like this. This is from the Globe and Mail. Canada reports biggest population decline on record. Oh no! All the fake fraudulent visas are finally being revealed. Oh my God. Colleges that are part of the scam are being exposed. Oh my God. The population is in decline. It's not that we should maybe look into ourselves and realize that we made things so unaffordable that people aren't starting families. It's not the fact that we're, pushing the goalpost on MAID and, suddenly killing off more Canadians. It's nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that we can't exploit more people to come to this country. In fact, if you actually look at the statistics, there's more people emigrating out of Canada than there are people coming to this country. And you notice how that is never brought to discussion. Like, legit Canadians, or rather, they're taking their money elsewhere. They're taking everything, they're taking their livelihoods and saying, screw this. They never talk about that. Then, of course, you get Mark Miller, you get Mark Weissman, you get Mark Carney, you get all these people that jump on to say, this is why we need to bring in, and stop the migration vetting and just bring in as many people as possible. Because look, the population's in decline. Oh my God. Nothing to do with the failures of all this. Utmost failures of this Parliament government. that's causing all this. That's causing this self-destruction. And as I stated, it's all intentional. They know what they're doing. This is not an oopsie daisy. This is not incompetency. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And I've stated from the start, Mark Carney, I fear Mark Carney more so than Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau was a clown. He was Pee Wee Herman pretending to play politics. Mark Carney, I fear him the most because he is a man that knows what he's doing. And what he is doing is the most sinister, evil, maniacal iterations you can imagine being done to this country. And there's a lot more behind closed doors, and you don't even know how far that man can go. That's what's happening to this once reputable country that people used to endure. People would actually be encouraged. They didn't need to be shuffled with NGOs and fraudulent visas. They came here because they thought it was prosperous. And now even the migrants, even immigrants are looking at this and saying, I'm not going to Canada. I know what happens there. I know what happens in the United States. I can go elsewhere in the world. Rather stay in my country than to deal with this mayhem of a scam.